everyone, I'm Shaina and today I will talk about an important topic in biology that we are also studying in grade 11, and that is binomial nomenclature. So what does the word nomenclature actually mean? Nomenclature is basically naming. So whenever we are naming an organism that we have found or discovered newly, so the naming process that is there, that is known as nomenclature. So binomial nomenclature is basically giving a two-part scientific name to any newly discovered organism. So there are a few rules that must be followed while doing the binomial nomenclature. Oh, and binomial nomenclature was the term was first coined or given by Carolus Linnaeus. So binomial nomenclature has basically, you could say, 5 important or major rules that must be followed. And as I earlier told you, binomial nomenclature means giving a two-part or a two-part name system. That means it includes 2 words in the naming of a specific organism. Say for example, Mangifera indica. I am sure many of you must heard what the scientific word Mangifera indica. So basically it is the scientific name given for mangoes. So Mangifera indica, as the scientific name, is made up of 2 words, Mangifera and indica. So now we'll tell you the rules of why why only 2-part name is given and what is the significance of these 2 parts that are given in a binomial nomenclature. So the first rule is that whenever we are writing the binomial nomenclature, as I said, the name should be given in 2 parts. So the first part is known as the generic name and the second part is known as the specific epithet. And since they are in the scientific names, they are taken from their Latin origin, they must be italicized. So the second thing is that whenever we are writing a biological nomenclature, at that point we should italicize when we are typing it, and when we are writing it as it handwritten, at that time the first word the first part, it should be in capital, basically sentence case. The first letter should be capital. For example, Mangifera indica, Mangifera, here M should be capital in Mangifera, and while in indica the I, it should be small, it should not be capital. And the both words should be separately underlined. Means, for example, if we have Mangifera indica, then Mangifera should be underlined separately and indica should be separately underlined. So that was another rule. The next rule comes is that while we are giving the binomial nomenclature, the name of the author, basically the person who has discovered, their name should be written at the end but in abbreviated form. So for example, in Mangifera indica, we write the name of the author in abbreviated form. So it will be Mangifera indica, then in abbreviated form Lin, which is basically the abbreviation for Linnaeus. Lin. So that too should be written after the generic and the specific epithet, the both parts of the binomial nomenclature, and then the name of the author. The next comes is the 2 parts of binomial nomenclature, what they signify. So basically the first part of the nomenclature is the genus name, basically, and the second part is the species. So when we are doing a taxonomical hierarchy basically means that different categories or taxas, they are organized in a tree-like structure, and they are subparts they are written as subparts and made a table out of it. That is the taxonomical hierarchy. So the second smallest group that comes is the genus, and the smallest unit or the smallest taxa that is used to group or classify organisms is species. So the second part of the binomial nomenclature is the name of the species, and that is the specific epithet. And the first part, which is generic name, is for the genus. Like taking the example of Mangifera indica again. So over here, Mangifera, where M is capital and it is underlined, it is for the name of the genus, Mangifera. And indica on the second, so the I is small and it is underlined separately, and that indica is the name of the species that the mango belongs to. That's how the binomial nomenclature is done. So basically, summing up all the rules quickly, the first rule is that since all the words are derived from Latin, they are italicized. Second is the first part of a binomial nomenclature represents the generic name, which is the genus, and the second part represents the specific epithet, which is the species it belongs to. The next comes is that both the words, they should be separately underlined when handwritten and can be italicized when it is typed. Then next comes that both the biological name, the first word should be written in capital. The first letter of the first word should be in capital, followed by the small letters, and the second part should all be in small letters. No capital in the second part. And the next comes is that the name of the author or the person who has discovered it, their name should be written at the last, and that too in abbreviated form. So let's take a few examples of binomial nomenclature. So like I was already given example of Mangifera indica, we were talking about mango. Do you know what is Solanum tuberulus? Basically that is the scientific name for potatoes. Then now we have talked about plants and fruits. Now let's go to animals. Do animals also have such scientific name? Obviously they do. And their nomenclature also follows the same rule for binomial nomenclature. So for example, let's take Panthera leo. Do you know what that is? Yes, that is the scientific name or the binomial nomenclature given for lions. So over here, Panthera with a capital P and underlined stands for the genus that a lion belongs to. And Leo with a small l and separately underlined stands for the species that the lion belongs to. Then taking another example, for example, like Panthera tigris, that stands for tiger. So Panthera over here again is the genus and tigris is the species that the tiger is belonging to. So basically this was how binomial nomenclature is done. So that was all about binomial nomenclature and how naming is done. Oh, I forgot to add one short point, that these names that are given, they are given after a specific, basically the specific criteria given for naming the organisms as well. And who is responsible for this? Basically the ICZN and ICBN, which is the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature and International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. So zoological, as the name suggests, for animals and botanical for plants. So these two are the basically organizations, you could say, that are responsible for naming the different organisms that are found. ICBN and ICZN for animals, ICBN for plants. So that was all about binomial nomenclature. Hope you learned something new. Thank you. Oh, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye bye.